Hey there guys, welcome to the next tutorial here on the channel. In this video I'm going to show you guys how to make duct tape beads, and we're kind of going to incorporate flower petals into making the beads as well. So it's going to be kind of a cool tutorial. I'm going to be using two different kinds of duct tape, two different color patterns, the Graffiti 2.0 and the Patriotic Wave tape, to kind of give the flower petals and the beads a kind of cool contrasting color choice here. Alright, so for this tutorial you're going to need just some string or twine or whatever you're using as your necklace or your bracelet, and you're also going to need a few pieces of straw, which I've cut into small little segments here. Now straws are pretty much the majority of beads out there. Duct tape beads use a straw as the base to kind of apply all the way around. There's probably about 95% of the duct tape beads that are on out on the market and everything. That's what I'm going to be using for this tutorial as kind of the base to apply all of our petals onto. So I have a bunch of these here, and of course you can make as many as you want to. And now let's get started on cutting the strips and sticking them onto the straw pieces. So my first step is I cut out a strip of tape that is 2 inches long. Now what I want to do is cut it vertically every ½ inch. So I'm going to cut it directly in half and then cut those two other pieces in half. 3 cuts, and then I'm going to go horizontally down 3/4 of an inch and make one cut, then down another 3/4 of an inch and make another cut right across. Now you will end up with these 4 pieces on the bottom, and we're not actually going to be able to use those pieces because they're too small, so I'm just going to put those aside. And now we have 8 pieces here that I'm going to work on for 8 different petals. Okay, so at this point, if you guys know how to make duct tape flower petals, you're going to be at a great advantage for this video here. We're going to take the top right hand corner of our first piece, and of course these are probably a lot smaller than you're used to working with, so just go nice and slowly and you shouldn't have too much trouble here. So you want to fold the top right hand corner into right about there, and then what we're going to do is take the top left hand corner and fold that down just like this. So we have a small triangle at the top and then a large bar of sticky part on the bottom. And that's very important, that large part of a sticky adhesive piece, because that's what's going to allow us to stick the that flower petal onto the straw pieces. You definitely want that to be as large as possible. So once again, we're going to take our top right hand corner, fold into right about there, so you can see that. Then we'll take our top left hand corner and fold that in to form a small triangle with that large bar of sticky part on the bottom. So now I need to do that with the rest of these 6 pieces I have here. Okay, so I now have my 4 pieces there. I move the other 4 aside for a little bit later. Now I want to really show you exactly why that large part of sticky part on the bottom is really necessary. This is one of the small petals I made with those 4 extra pieces that I put aside that I didn't need. And you can tell with a smaller petal, look how much sticky part there is on the bottom. There's hardly any. When you try to stick that onto your straw here, and since the straw is curved, it's really going to put a lot of stress on that sticky part. It's simply not going to stick on very well. And then when you stick the other part on and you kind of flex the straw, because there's really nothing solid in there, it's not going to stay on very well, and they're all going to eventually just pop off. So the important part when you're making these is to have as much sticky part as possible. That way you can apply them and they're pretty much guaranteed to stay on. Much better than the small ones which I just showed you on there. So now I'm going to start to stick them onto the straw here. So I've got my first petal attached. I'm going to take my second one. I'm going to go directly across from this one and apply that petal. And these the petal points are kind of just overhanging the part of the straw there, so you can't really see it, which is fine. I'm going to take my third one and I'm going to fill that gap on the one side. And you can kind of just flex the straw as you're sticking these down to kind of create a solid surface for you to stick them down. It's not a huge issue. But you do want to make sure they all stay stuck down. That's very important. So now I have my first row. Then I'm going to take a different color. I'm going to take some Graffiti 2.0 petals, and I'm going to add those right below the ones I just added on there. Now I have my 4 parts of a Graffiti 2.0 petals. I'm going to take those and I'm going to apply them directly onto this piece here. I'm kind of going to stagger them a little bit, so I'm going to kind of apply them opposite the gaps in between the other petals. But of course you can do this any way you want to. Just kind of totally up to you guys. So I'm going to stick that right about there. And then this last one will go right about there. And now what I'm doing for this one is I'm kind of going back and forth. So I'm going to take some of the patriotic themes once again, and I'm going to go in between those. And you don't have to do it this way. It's really totally up to you guys. What you can do, sometimes it's really cool if you make all, each individual, link a different color. So this one would be like, totally patriotic, and then the next one is, totally graffiti 2.0. But it's totally up to you guys. There's so many different ways that you can make these. The only tips that I can give you is to absolutely make sure that you're sticking everything down as much as possible, and then you kind of just eventually, go all the way to the end here, which will be right towards the end. You can kind of overlap by sticking them inside, as long as you have enough room to thread your twine, your string, whatever you're using, or like a chain to go through each of your straw pieces. So that's how to make, my version of how to make duct tape beads or duct tape kind of flower beads. It can be kind of a really tedious craft to work at, because if you're trying to make, say 20 of them, it's going to take, a little bit of time to make all these different beads. But they do look really cool, and there's a ton of different color patterns that you can go for and really mix and match. If you don't want all the petals to be facing the same way, you can of course apply them to the center and then reverse direction and then apply them all going the opposite direction, which will kind of a half and half, like one going this way, one going the other way, which would be a really cool way to do it. So definitely looking forward to seeing like what you guys come up with. Definitely just go crazy with this, come up with a whole bunch of different cool ways to make your flower beads, and hopefully you like this video, this tutorial on the channel here. So good luck in making tons of flower beads.